Week 3 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few defense DST units. I have his sleepers this week. The first one, the Tennessee Titans. So the Titans, we know their defense has always been decent. Most part is Tennessee. I know last week it wasn't great versus the Chargers, but this week here at the Cleveland Browns, a team obviously without Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs in the league, out for the season, and also an offense that's prone to turning the football over. We saw last week where the Steelers started that ball game off with a pick six and a few other turnovers in this one, with the Browns so far giving up the second most fantasy points DSTs on the season. I think here Tennessee could go in there in Cleveland, grind it out type of ball game, get a few sacks, get a couple turnovers, and right now available in 97% of fantasy leagues, where the first couple weeks for them, week 1 at New Orleans, 16 points allowed, 4 sacks and into a fumble recovery. And then week 2 versus the Chargers, 24 points allowed, 3 sacks. So this week here, I could see Tennessee having a ball game like they did in week 1, where they get anywhere from 8 to 10 fantasy points, and they're a sleeper this week. The next DST is the Detroit Lions. So the Lions, I know their defense isn't all that great, but week 1 at Kansas City, they did hold down Patrick Mahomes and that offense for the most part. Granted, obviously, Travis Kelce didn't play in that game. So week 1, 20 points allowed, a pick 6 in that one. And then week 2 versus Seattle, they didn't do anything, 31 points allowed and a sack. But week 3 here versus a Ram offense that pretty much relies on the run more than anything, with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. I think they could get to Desmond Ridder a few times in this game. Ridder so far has looked like one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league, where he's just a guy that's trying to manage the ball game and not throwing much. But if the Lions offense could get off to a quick start and they got to force Ridder to throw the football, I think this is where a few sacks could come in and a few turnovers. And right now, this Lion team available in 93% of fantasy leagues. And if you're in desperation, they're definitely a sleeper D this week. In the third and final DST unit I have as a sleeper this week here is the Los Angeles Rams. So right now, Joe Burrow, we don't know 100% if he's going to play in this ball game, and if he doesn't, obviously Jake Browning is the backup quarterback. So right now I think Burrow's going to go in this ball game, but he's obviously not going to be 100%. And this Bengal team, believe it or not, this is a crucial ball game for them here on Monday Night Football, because if they fall to 0-3, you know the statistics. I don't really have to say them, that teams usually don't make the playoffs. Even with the extra wild card, it'll be tough. But anyway, this Ram defense, the first few weeks, week 1 in Seattle, 13 points allowed, 2 sacks. And then last week, obviously, versus a juggernaut offense in the San Francisco 49ers, 30 points allowed in a sack, where you're not going to expect much out of them. But right here, you still got Aaron Donald on this defensive line. You still got some playmakers on the secondary as well. And I think this week here, this Ram defense could put on a decent ball game. Like I mentioned, Cincinnati's been struggling so far early in the season. Joe Burrow's not 100%, so the mobility's not going to be there. So if you get a hand on him, it's most likely going to be a sack. And right now, available 98% of fantasy leagues. And when you got a pass rusher like Donald, even though he's definitely lost a step a little bit, I believe, he could still create havoc and make plays. So that's a few defense DST units I have his sleepers here for week 3 of the fantasy football season.